Jesus said, "The kingdom of heaven will be as when a man going on a journey summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had the 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, 'Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents.' His master said to him, 'Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master.' Then the one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, 'Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours.' But his master replied, 'You wicked and lazy slave, you knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
If you are the one who lives to work, or the one who works to live, just remember, it's not about what you get, it's about what you give. Amen to that. Hey, the gospel this morning again gave me that wonderful moment of pause, right at the moment where he said, "You lazy slave, cast him to the other darkness and give to the guy who has the most." And then we all said, "Praise be to God." It was one of those other moments. I don't know if you got the same twist as I did, but a parable such as this one of the talents follows right behind the other parable that we gave and heard last Sunday about the what? 10 bridesmaids. I mean, Jesus tells that parable, and we're wondering, what is this oil in the lamp? And then the very next sentence, according to St. Matthew, he gives us another parable. Well, he actually gave it to his audience in those days, but we could consider ourselves that audience, couldn't we? And here we are listening to this parable about the talents. Did you start to think about that opening of which person you are? Are you that person who lives to work? Or are you that person who works to live? Maybe you can relate to each of those, depending on where you've been in your life. Sometimes I always think it's that second one that's more altruistic. You know, the one who just works to live. I mean, life. We're supposed to live. We're supposed to have a good time. We're supposed to enjoy what God has given us. We should spend time with our family. We should spend time loving those that are closest to us, traveling, going and seeing the world, doing the things. That's what kind of went through my head when I think about those type of people that work to live. But what about the people who live to work? I've always kind of had a negative spin on that. Like, they have no time for family. They don't have time for others. All they think about is their job and their money and all that. But I'm wondering if that is a harsh criticism for both of those presumptions. Is it possible that there's some worth to a person that really lives to work, like productivity, taking on assignments and roles and things that give them zeal and happiness and joy, collaborating with a team perhaps, employees? I mean, that's got to be something positive, right? if you're working to live for that, or living to work for that. But then, on the other hand, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to say it's all the most positive for someone who just assumingly wants to go have a good time. I mean, that person could have no responsibilities in life. They don't have to worry about working if they go the far extreme of just spending time with people and having a good time. I mean, I think we got to balance this, don't you? Somehow we got to figure out the existence of our own lives and balancing this work and life. It's kind of like faith and practice. The two kind of go hand in hand. Whenever I'm around men, the question we always ask, and I've preached this many, many times, and that is we always say, so what do you do? What do you do for a living? We even go that far. We'll not just say, what do you do, but what do you do for a living? As if their work defines their life. Women seem to be a little different. I don't know. I'm trying not to be, exclusive to women and men here. You can correct me, of course. But usually when I'm around women, it's not about what you do. It's about who you be, like who you are and how you relate with others. I mean, that's just kind of what I pick up. Your family's really important, your kids, if you have kids, or your neighbors, or it seems to be those two understandings. And as easily as I want to categorize that the men are those people who live to work and the women are those people who work to live, I don't think we're really giving it justice to the parable. And I'll get to the parable in a minute. You've already heard it read. I had to look at this in both ways, and I said, is it possible that there is a person given great talent and potential could actually amass a great fortune, and yet internally they're not at peace? Well, you know the answer to that. And is it possible that a person could have relationships, but yet when they get broken, maybe they're not living the right way? It asks so many questions here today. There is one person I thought about, and it goes back to the saying about whether or not you're a person that lives to work or works to live. That's a quote. Have you heard that quote before? Have you heard that quote, or have you used it yourself, like I'm a person that works to live, or I'm a person that lives to work? Have you ever heard that type of quote before? Well, I love quotes, and I went and studied where did the etymology of that quote come from. And it didn't go back very far. In fact, there's a man who's 1 year older than myself. He lives in England. He was born in Manchester in 1967. He was born into a household of Roman Catholics, but he didn't go to church. He had a brother whose name was Paul. They liked to play guitars. And he would grow and develop in a way to which his talents were so rich that we would look at that person and say, it's pathetic that a person has that much talent. Noel Gallagher, have you ever heard of that name? He's the one who actually coined that quote. And he said, I am a man who works to live, and I will never live to work. He said that. And I think he said it about 15, 20 years ago, so it hasn't been around very long. When a person makes a statement like that, it makes us all pay attention to who they are. It teaches us where their priorities lie. And when I look at this man's life, I can't really add up what he's saying with who he's being. What he does and what he is seem to be in conflict. Going back, he was born into a home where his dad was a building contractor. I can relate, my dad was a building contractor. A lot had been given to him. But what people didn't know is that he and his brother Paul were beaten routinely by their father, who was an alcoholic. He hid it, but he didn't hide it with his brothers. They grew up with that disfigured understanding of a relationship between a son and their father. It was very unhealthy, toxic. So he's growing up, and what do you think he's going to do once he gets of age? He's going to leave home. So he leaves with his guitar. and he begins to play music wherever he can, joining this band and that band and that band. He has won so many awards for his ability to play the guitar that he is acclaimed as one of the most influential British musicians of our time. He studied the anthology of the Beatles. A lot of his music that came out of studying them is still present in his rock grunge genre. Do you like grunge rock? No, I don't care for it myself. But that was his niche. And as he grows, he also develops relationships. He got married, he had a daughter and 2 sons. And then, because of his own nature, he's still struggling, I guess, with what he was growing up in. He didn't know how to adequately give to others. He didn't know how to share life. So a man who says, I work to live, it makes me wonder, does he actually own that? He got a divorce. He's estranged from his daughter. The other son isn't going to talk to him. And one son decided that he would hang around because he liked to play guitar too. And the 2 of them go to concert. They do concerts all throughout England and Ireland. Long story short is he became quite famous. He became quite rich. He started with $20 million when he had his first 3 albums, and now he's grown to a net worth of $50 million. Why would I mention that? Because you could technically say he doubled and then some what he was given. Bring it now back to the parable. I wonder about Noel in this parable and whether he was the 5-talent man, the 2-talent man, or the 1-talent man. A talent. I just told you a story about a man who was very talented, and from that talent he became quite wealthy. And maybe we all think that talent is like that. It's like you're artistic. We can't all be like Gabriel, who knows how to play every single instrument, it seems. We can't be all like Bob, who knows so much about business. It makes me think, oh my gosh, he knows so much. I don't know if I can have a candle to this guy. He knows so much. And I know that there's more of you in your lives. You're so talented in your areas, whether it's in art or business or athletics or whatever it might be. You've been given talent. But when Jesus is talking to his audience back then in those ancient of days, talent was precisely a currency. Talent, manna, drachma, shekels, that was their name of their dollars and so forth back then. So put it in perspective, if we're going to just look at it from the monetary point of view of understanding this parable, a talent in the Greek Peloponnesian Wars was used to pay the salary of 170 oarsmen on a battleship for 1 month. The equivalent, the calculations say, is $1.2 or $1.5 million. Now, let your mathematical abilities go to the parable. If 5 talents were given, multiply that times 1.5, what is that? 7.5? Is that right? $7.5 million? That's a lot. 2 talents, what would that be? $3 million. And the guy given 1 talent, what would that be? $1.5 million. Now that is pretty substantial. What if someone gave you 7.5 or 3 or $1.5 million today and said, now go out there and grow it? What an opportunity, right? Let's take those of you who live to work, all right? If you're one of those people, you might be someone who invests wisely and go out there and just work and work and work until you can get that stock and that interest and everything that can grow it and multiply it. But if you're another person who works to live and says, I know a lot of people and maybe we want to go in together and start a small business and let me rely on my friends and people to join me, that's also another way in which to grow, correct? But would you be given $1.5 million and go dig a hole and put that in that hole? I don't think anybody here would do that, would you? You wouldn't bury it. You wouldn't even put it in your checking account. You would say to yourself, what's the expectation? The expectation was that you would take something and you would grow it. You would take talent and you would grow it. And I want to say that Jesus was using the terms of a monetary talent to get into the philosophical framework of what a person is all about. How their doing and their being are interrelated. But those alone cannot multiply. They cannot alone work by themselves. It hinges on the master. The master is instructing them on what to do by following his example. Did you think that it was odd that that one who was given the 1 talent, who turns to the master and says, I know that they multiplied what you gave them, but here, I'm just giving you back what you gave me. A long time ago. We don't know how long, we don't know how far of a journey, but it was a long time. Enough that the other two could double and raise what they had. But this one said, I'm just giving you back what you had because I knew you were a what? What did he know about the Father? He was a harsh man. You went and you reaped where you did not sow. He knew in his head that this master, he assumed he was harsh based on what he saw. I can hear that voice in perhaps a son who was abused by his father, who said, what's the use? What good will it ever be? What can I ever possibly prove to this man? Is it possible that the 1 talent man totally misunderstood the master? Absolutely. If that's the case in the parable, is it possible that we have a misunderstanding of who our Father is? Is it possible that we have a misunderstanding of who Jesus Christ is? Or are we going to be like the 2 talents or the 5 talents, where we learn how to use what has been given to us? Resourcefulness of money or time or talent. Are we truly using what God's given us so that we can give out to others? It's not about what you get, it's about what you give. When we come into this period of time, we ask ourselves, Jesus, what are you calling us to give? Is it our money? Well, I'll give you the interest that I earned off of it. Is it my time? I can't give you all this time or any time because I'm so busy. Is it my talent? It doesn't profit me if I use this for your service. If we dig a hole, dearly beloved, and we put our time or our talent and our treasure in that hole, it will not be a good outcome. Because we will turn into the 1 talent man. And the 1 talent man has one thing that you need to know. Everything about them is about what they get. It's not about what they give. The getting is a selfish, corrosive, corrupt person. You do not want to fall into that hole. You want to be the one that's on a daily basis saying, dear God, you have given me such an abundance. He has. And with that abundance, I want you to tell me and teach me how to best use it. You grow. You grow because you've learned to be compassionate. You've learned to be patient. You've learned to be forgiving. You've learned to be merciful. All these attributes are the Master's attributes. These are the Father. This is the Son. This is the Holy Spirit, the 3 in 1, teaching us how to truly live. This is not the gospel of health and wealth. The more you give, the more you get. Jesus says, the more you get, the more you are to give, as I have given fully to you. So if you are the one who lives to work, or if you're the one who works to live, just remember, follow Jesus and his example, listen to him daily, because it's not about what you get, it's about what you give. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.